Hola! Welcome to Shades of Us, the show that looks at a person's journey when it comes to race and self-identity. I am Gisela Sanders-Alcantara. On this episode, we'll feature two very bold individuals. One, a Garifuna, Afro-Latina blogger, entrepreneur, and two, a self-described Blasian podcaster for queer people of color. I always knew I was a mixed-raced individual. Growing up in Mexico, I learned we were the mix of indigenous and Spaniards, but existing diversity was not fully recognized. We were assumed to be a homogeneous group of people. And as I migrated to the US, I was now a Latina, a brown person, and I saw the same principle applied to all Latinx. Like Janel Martinez, who's looking into how she's represented in this melting pot.
There's definitely misconceptions around what it means to be a Black Latina. I think for one, oftentimes people even just separate it, like, oh, you're Black and Latina. It's like, there's no and. It is one of the same. My name is Janel Martinez. I am a native of the Bronx, and by way of Honduras, by way of St. Vincent, technically by way of Africa. Both of my parents are immigrants to the US. The Bronx has had a huge, huge impact on how I identify and really just how I operate as a person. It's the home of one of the largest Garifuna communities outside of Honduras. To give a brief history of Garifuna people, essentially we were en route to be enslaved, but the ship got shipwrecked and we actually revolted and ended up in St. Vincent. We were there for many years, but then we became, through fighting, not internal fighting, but like colonial fighting, we were exiled. And so that is why today you will see Garifuna people along the coast in Central America. So that is Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Belize, and even to this day, still in St. Vincent. When you're from an immigrant community, a lot of times you'll come to a place where you know has been okayed by your people, right? Like knowing that like this is a safe space for people to come to. And for a lot of the Garifuna community, it's really been the Bronx. There's very distinct aspects of the culture. The fact that we put a lot of coconut in our foods, whether that's everything from the soup with machuca, which is hudutu in Garifuna, keke, all of these like very distinct foods. And also the music, so punta, wanagua, like all these different dances. The language is a mixture of like Arawak, Black Carib. A misconception sometimes that when someone is from a Latin American country, like all they speak is Spanish. There's tons of other languages. So for me, Garifuna was that language that my parents spoke to each other. And even though I don't speak it fluently, I definitely understand because that was just the main way they communicated, and same with my grandparents. Growing up as an Afro-Latina, it's interesting because we didn't necessarily have that term, but this understanding that we were Black was definitely evident in my household. You know, my mom, she's definitely the main person that always said to me, like, Janel, you're a Black Hispanic. Now, I don't refer to myself personally as Hispanic, but at the time, that's something that she always told me. There was never this like, you're just Latina. It was like, girl, you are Black. Even though someone may not be like born in Honduras, but like their parents are, you know, Garifuna, or their grandparents are Garifuna, we are seeing a difference in like how people resonate with the culture. And that happens with, I think, Latin American immigrants to this country too. Like, how are we preserving culture in a space that tells you to assimilate most times? But that still doesn't like negate your cultural lineage, I feel. And I definitely see a big reclaiming of Garifuna culture amongst like myself and peers. We are looking to preserve all of those things because we know that at the end of the day, it's connected to Africa, which is just very oral. So we're writing it down because a lot of this stuff isn't even written down. The language wasn't even written down until 10 years ago. A level of like reclaiming the culture. Within virtually every Latin American country, there are Black folks, because we do know Black is not monolithic, like you can be from anywhere. To be a Black Latina essentially means that you are from a Latin American country, but you acknowledge your African roots. And so that's why, folks like myself use Black Latina as a description, because it's really acknowledging like, we're Black, we've been Black, but we also just so happen to be from a Latin American country. I am a journalist and an entrepreneur, and a lot of folks know of my work through my website called Ain't I Latina. I started the website in December of 2013. Ain't I Latina is a digital destination that celebrates and highlights Afro-Latinas, Black Latinas, so Black women essentially from Latin America or of Latin American descent. At the time, I was actually writing for a business publication, specifically talking to African American entrepreneurs. And one thing that I noticed, a lot of them were like, all we're doing is solving a problem. In my mind, I was like, here I am interviewing these amazing entrepreneurs, and I know of a ton of like problems that I feel like I could solve. And being someone that grew up flipping through tons of magazines like Essence, Ebony, Jet, Latina, People en Español, like all these publications, watching a lot of TV, I just really wanted to see my complete self. And I say that because I saw parts of myself. But then when I would flip to Latina, I'm seeing, someone that may share my last name, or someone that is from Latin America but doesn't look like me. When I was writing about entrepreneurship, I was like, okay, this is actually my sign to start this website. And I really just thought it was gonna be something that like a few of my friends or like cousins would really enjoy. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to like press send or launch on this and see what happens. But what I quickly realized was like people following us on social media, leaving comments, and we're really just like, wow, like thank you for, sharing your story, but also a big part of Ain't I Latina is really sharing the Black Latina narrative. There are, profiles that we've run on, folks that identify as straight, queer, different socioeconomic backgrounds. Like, it's really about finding that space that's for you. A large percentage of my audience are, self-identify as Black Latinas. Many of them are between the ages of 25 and 34, and I know this because of like analytics, which is awesome. And also a majority of them are in New York City.
Hola mi gente, it's Janel Martinez, creator of Ain't I Latina, and you're here watching the 2018 Afro-Latino Festival of New York. Stay tuned for several interviews we have coming.
So in terms of kind of being a voice in regards to identity and creating my website, Ain't I Latina, it's something that I'm still, even 4 years in, getting used to. I love creating safe spaces for Black women of Latin American descent and Black women as a whole. But we need to also showcase the importance of having like allyship with other people that are not necessarily, self-identify in that same way, as long as they get it.
Afro-Latinx, Latina, all these terms are really the product of colonization. It was designed to kind of create this sort of separatist ideas, but and this is also too why there's a movement and people that use the term Afro-descendant, right? So it doesn't matter if you're African American, Caribbean, Latinx, whatever you define yourself as, you're just of the African diaspora. And I will say, because of like a lot of conversations that I'm involved in, I've had to really analyze like the terminology that I use. So I do identify as Afro-Latina or Black Latina, but because of some of the newer conversations that are happening, and also further realization of things. You know, I also identify as negra.
There's definitely a generational element to the conversations happening. It's always important, I feel like, to recognize that a lot of these conversations are not new. So the digital space has really just heightened the visibility of the conversation. So there was no internet, there was no, social media. The way in which information was transferred was far different. The constant evolution of technology has really heightened the visibility of the conversation. And so sometimes people are just oblivious to it because it doesn't affect their lives. So of course they don't really focus on it, but at some point you have come into contact with someone that was a Black Latino, whether you knew it or not. And so the term is not new, the experience is definitely not new, and our history tells us it's not new because we know the transatlantic slave trade and the majority of slaves were brought to Latin America and the Caribbean. So all this information is not new, but the way in which it's disseminated, the way in which it's shared, the way in which it's discussed is far more public than it has been in previous years. And I think that's really what has brought the conversation to the point that it is today. But if we don't know our history, if we only are going based off of what is shared via hashtag, that's not gonna fare too well. It's important, but we can't negate the history of the movement as well. When it comes to identity, I would view it as a group endeavor. There are so many people that inform your identity. I'm definitely the embodiment of a lot of women that have come before me. When I am speaking to what I'm seeing in terms of visibility amongst Black Latinas and to be honest, Black Latinx folk across the board, is just the lack of visibility, which essentially you're erasing us from the culture.
This confirms again what I've been learning. We Latinx have different backgrounds. And as I look around the world, I recognize that trend that I'm part of, where we venture into the project of having a mixed race family, trying to negotiate with different values, beliefs, and traditions, making us all unique. Like Johnathan Gibbs, a digital groundbreaker who uses his podcast to reach queer and multiracial communities.
There are people in the world who exist where you can see that maybe they're queer because of maybe the way they present themselves, dress, appear to the eye of, quote, normal society. But for me, as you can see, I don't keep myself stereotypically up to the standard of what gays have been presented. All that to say that you'll definitely see that I'm Black first. My name is Johnathan Gibbs, and I am Black and Filipino, or Blasian. To be Black and Asian, as I've thought about it over the years, and I've been thinking about it for a long time now, it literally just means that. Because, as mixed identity, specifically Blasians, have risen to prominence as far back as 1997 Tiger Woods, as recently as Naomi Osaka, you start to realize that people are different, nobody's a monolith. When I started thinking about my identity as a Blasian, I will tell you that growing up, it was never something that I acknowledged. It was just not something I had to think about. I grew up around a lot of Latinx people, brown Asians, so Southeastern Asians, and then Chinese, and then maybe in class there would be 2 white people and 1 Black person. That was my entire existence from kindergarten until 5th grade. Growing up, I didn't have to think about the fact that I was Filipino. My mom and Lola, that's grandma in Tagalog, they just treated me like a kid, like a Filipino kid. They did speak to me in Tagalog sometimes, but they were never you're this or you're that. It was just you're Johnathan. There was no thing that told me that I was black except my skin, like being brown. And then there was no thing that told me that I was Filipino. We just ate Filipino food. We just did things that American households don't typically do, like take off your shoes at the door. All the shoes are at the front door. You don't run the bath all the way. You just fill up the bucket and then you bathe from that. And like, I remember one time one of my friends came over and he's like, what is that bucket in the tub? And I'm like, it's the bath. Like, that's how you take a bath. And he's like, no, you're the only person that I've ever seen. I think it's called a tabo, but like that's a Filipino thing. And then when I moved in with my dad, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff about black culture that I didn't know and that I had to learn. When I did start thinking about it was after high school. Like, I started my YouTube channel in college, and that's when I started really thinking like, oh, I am Filipino and black.
Now what I'm doing is I'm responding to whatever year he was born in, this video, which was a response to this video about being mixed. One of his main points was, if you're black and you're anything else and you look black, then why would you even go through all the trouble of explaining when you can just say you're black? You lazy. That's just lazy as hell. Because that's what it sounds like to me, because if you can't take pride in your heritage and represent both your mother and your father's side, and that's why we do it, is because we have respect for both of our parents.
If I have to really take a deep dive and think about it, I think it was brought forth more in my first go around in college, because I went to an HBCU, or historically black college and university. Automatically people were like, oh, you're mixed with something, but what is it? And in answering those questions, I think I realized like, oh, being Filipino is a thing along with me being black. Who knows what I would have become if I had not gone to an HBCU and learned more about that side of me, the roots there. It's always been a dream of mine to sing in an ensemble as large as the Mormon Tabernacle Choir that sings the spirituals. I found the New York City Gay Men's Chorus. It's been great to be a part of the New York City Gay Men's Chorus and just sing these big concerts. It's unlike anything ever. I've always liked being on camera. I've always liked singing in choirs. I've always liked performing. My YouTube channel, the name of it, it's Blasian FMA. The early days of YouTube were a completely different experience than what YouTube is now. You know, back in the day, it was all about community. It was about identity and finding yourself in other people. And so I feel like YouTube has lost that sense of community. With every YouTuber, anybody who decides to be on YouTube, there's an element of self-serving arrogance there. And some people take it further than others, but I think that has to be present in your spirit in order for you to want to do that. It's become a really different environment. From what I can see, my first attempt at starting national conversations. So Education was basically my first podcast. As the years went by, podcasting became a medium that so many people of color were gravitating towards. Me and my friend Garrett got together and we were like, hey, let's use this Google Hangouts thing, record them, and then just put them up and see what happens. And so we did, and we involved a couple of our other friends. And we started getting a following on Twitter, and there was this really one vocal person named Danny, and so we invited him on to talk with us, and that became like the Fab Five. We didn't really form an identity, except that it was a bunch of gay guys getting together to talk on a radio show, and we did 60 episodes. I had been influenced by other podcasts, you know. Before, historically, you would hear podcasting and you'd be like, black people don't listen to podcasts. But as time has worn on, you know, that's becoming less and less true. Now, everybody has a podcast. But I wanted to take what I had with Education and put it in a live setting.
You're listening to This QPOC Life, a podcast that looks at the world through the lens of a queer person of color. We also have a variety of views and opinions, so please leave yours on our website, thisqpoc.life, on our Facebook page, or send us a tweet at thisqpoclife. Help us build this QPOC community.
My name is Zach, and you can find me at Zachary Aris everywhere on the internet, and my pronouns are he, him, his, or any of the other ones.
I'm Johnathan, aka Blasian, FMA. My pronouns are he, him, his.
My name is Carlos Rios, and you can find me on the internet at TreyFabulo, and my pronouns are whatever, I don't really care. But my favorite one is hers.
You may call me Jolie, that is Joe with no E, and that's how you'll find me on the internet. And my pronouns are they, them, theirs, and mango.
Ooh.
Okay, we're trying new things. Mango.
I love it.
And this is This QPOC Live.
Would you like the vibrato on that?
No.
Okay. Well,
There it is.
This QPOC Life is a take on National Public Radio's This American Life. Another one of which that influenced This QPOC Life was This Filipino American Life, which I listened to. So This Filipino American Life influenced This QPOC Life because I was like, okay, this is cool, this informs one part of my identity, but where's the one that looks at the world through the lens of a queer person of color? In October 2018, we celebrated 1 year. So in that year of our podcast life, we've discussed a lot of stuff, from World AIDS Day to National Coming Out. I know how I used to think about the whole, about HIV before I was diagnosed as positive. My own personal journey, I was super surprised. I had a lot of preconceived notions about what people with HIV looked like, how they acted. And the fact of the matter is, that's not the case. I had to learn to get over a lot of assumptions. And that was, it wasn't challenging, but it was an aha moment. And then after I got over that, I said, you know what? Just like with my identity, this is now another part of my identity, I have to make sure that people are not assuming things about me. I need to let them know up front, whatever you thought, I was probably thinking like you. I also wanted people to know, if it happens to you, it's not the end of the world. And that was definitely where the YouTube videos came in. We know that HIV affects a lot of Black and brown people in the queer community especially. I needed to be a face just to help represent. At this point in my life, when I look in the mirror, I'm just happy to be there. I see opportunity to improve myself each and every day.
Each week we take time for self-care on this mental health journey. So let's drink some water, because we should never forget that a QPOC, exercising self-care and mental health, is an act of war against the patriarchy.
Down with the patriarchy!
Whether I'm talking about myself or the work that I do that gets put out into the world, I feel as the creator of this thing, or as the person that pushes this idea, I'm doing it because I want people to be more informed, especially in being Black and Asian and gay and all of these other things that comprise me and my friends. The whole reason that I'm identifying as Blasian is to let you know that what you assumed is probably not correct, and let me let you know how I identify.
That is our show for today. To learn more about the people you just saw, log on to our website, tv.cuny.edu, and find our show. Thanks for watching us, and see you next time on Shades of Us.
Advocacy.